This is Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. This is Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk.
All right. Welcome to yet another edition of the Real Talk Podcast. I, as always, am your host, Pastor Jesse Jones, along with my beautiful, my vivacious, my gorgeous, my queen, and still yet again, she survived another week. She is not fired, the executive producer of the Real Talk Podcast. She is the Queen Falonda. Say hi to the folks, baby.
Hi, family.
And today we got some special guests today. Woo! Before I get special guests, let me give a quick shout out. Greetings, Bishop Miller. How are you, sir? Love you, sir. Appreciate you for popping on. I miss y'all more than y'all know. You don't understand how much I miss you, your wife, and Holy Temple of Praise. We got to get back up there and get y'all back down, or get y'all down here. It is going to happen, so we going to connect. I appreciate you so much, sir. We got some wonderful special guests today. I'm excited to have them. It's been a while since they've been on, but they have done some things since they have been on. We have the authors. I'm going to call them the authors right now because both of them have some tremendous books out. We have, first of all, I will start with my friend who likes to always argue with me every time she gets on here because she always take a Falonda side.
Because she's right. That's why you married a woman whose last name was Right.
And watch how easy I can take both of y'all out of the equation. I can take both of y'all mics off real easy. She is the author of Generational Wealth, Information, Asymmetry, and Your Success. She is wonderful, powerful, and since the last time y'all saw her on the Real Talk Podcast, she's a doctor, y'all. She now has her PhD, and she is straight official. She was official before, but now by any metric that you hear her in, she is now official, walking in the doors that only doctors can walk in now. And when you address her, please make sure you address her as Dr., the one and only Dr. Tina Phillips. Say hi to folks, ma'am.
Hey everybody, hey. Yeah, speak those things and be not as though they were. They still trying to hold on to it, but it's all right.
They ain't gonna hold on to it. They're gonna release it. I said
right.
Doctor. It's gonna be Doctor.
There we go. It is already done. My work is globally trending, thank God. And I promise you it was not me. It was a great deal of fasting, praying, and supplication and consecration and sacrifice. It wasn't me. I wish I could take the credit. But I really appreciate that opening. It's good to be back with you guys. And there I go arguing with you again.
Before we even got started, just you don't understand. As soon as while we're trying to get the sound and everything together, she just would not stop arguing with me. And then her wonderful, awesome husband had to come in and make sure she understood that she was wrong and I was right, and he was on my side, and I appreciate him for doing so. He is awesome. I didn't ad lib on everything he said. I said he just said it in a more intelligent way, and that's why y'all listen to him, because he's super intelligent. He is one of the greatest preservers of Black history that I know, and that probably any of you know. He understands not only Black culture, but understands our history and the importance of our history, not just in American culture, but globally. He is also an author. He is the author of 101 Black History Question Challenge in the early world. I promise you, when you hear him, if you don't listen to him well, your head will spin, because he is able to drop so much information that you didn't know. It's like that commercial with the loan with the purple smoke when your head explodes. That's what happens when he speaks if you don't pay attention. And if you're closed-minded, he's sure gonna shut you down, because he knows exactly what he's talking about. And he's one of them folks that he can pull receipts. He ain't one of the people that you hear every so often that will talk and can't pull no receipts and can't pull no facts. He will go back to the day, the date, and time to what some of these things have taken place, and if you give him enough time, he'll figure out what they was wearing and tell you exactly what they was wearing to be able to give you accurate history, something that especially in black culture is needed. He is the one and only, and I will forever always call him Doctor. He is forever Dr. Eddie Phillips. How's it going, my great sir? I appreciate you for coming
Man,
on.
that was a heck of an introduction. I'm out of breath listening to that. No, it's good, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be
Yes,
here.
sir. Yes, sir. We appreciate y'all for coming on. Y'all know we have a blast every time we come on, especially when Tina get to going. And now, Miss Tina, I told her before the podcast started, I will tolerate no reservations. You done already shown your colors. Now, I hadn't seen it before today, but I
My
seen it
sister
now.
saw it.
I'm gonna call it out. Yeah, any reservation, I will not talk. It's the Real Talk podcast. The only reservation I will allow is if your husband says to me, "Sir, you out of line," and then I'll pull back. But outside of that, I will tolerate no reservations, ma'am. Don't be holding back on us this time around. Let it all loose. Let it all loose. But I'm excited to talk with y'all today about a couple of things. But first and foremost, we want to talk and promote books and talk and promote the things that y'all have done that God has gifted y'all to be able to do. First, I want to start, since I introduced you first, Dr. Tina, I'm going to start with you first, especially because I know you got a lot to say anyhow, so we're going to let you get it all out. Your book, Generational Wealth, Information, Asymmetry, and Success. Let me ask you a question. A lot of folks talk about generational wealth. A lot of folks are if y'all see me sweating, it's because we ain't got no AC in here. Our AC is busted, so y'all bear with me. I'm gonna get up in a little bit and get myself a towel because I'm drenched. But a lot of folks talk about generational wealth, and they talk about how to accumulate it. And most people, when they deal with generational wealth, are only talking about the monetary value of what wealth is. So, with all of that in mind, what is your take on generational wealth, and what was the inspiration that caused you to put pen to paper for this book?
Well, the original idea came from my dissertation and a lot of things that I saw going on with people's mental health. We're so controversial now and so divided. The normatives that we use to divide are like racism, sexism, ageism, the colleges that people are in. We're seeing that right now, and their religious perspectives. We're seeing a lot of that. And it's like there's no safe haven. We're not even safe in school. And it's really messing people's mentality up and their mental health. And people are making fatal decisions because they feel hopeless and hapless because you can't turn to sanctuary in a church. You can't turn to sanctuary or feel safe in school. And, a lot of times, long before now, people were not feeling safe at work. We had the whole going postal thing. That was something so many years ago. It's like, that's not even news anymore. But there's such a call for us trying to find some sort of mental health. And that is why in my book, I don't talk about just generational wealth as in the finances, but it starts somewhere, and we cannot understand what books to read and who to trust and who to go to and who's knowledgeable, who's not knowledgeable. My book is showing all the readers valid proof of people who you can trust to read, and sources where they got their sources from in order to conclude the information that they concluded. So I gave a lot in this little book. So it's like, oh, well, who do we trust and why should we trust them? I'm going to show you exactly how and who and what, when, and how to apply it to your life from the beginning to the end. And it's not just about finances, it's formal logic. And that's why it's going to appeal to you, not just because I'm a psychologist and I know the words to say to convince people, but I'm going to show you so you could track it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Don't think I didn't hear because I had to step out for a second and grab my towel. I told you I was going to grab my towel. I'm smoking hot in here. We'll talk about that off air.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So go ahead, because I'm frazzled. I gotta get myself together.
So, being at this book is not, and I guess people would automatically assume that you're talking about finances. Do you think that because we're finally, well, at least I could say, especially within the Black community, we're finally acknowledging the importance of mental health?
I think globally and internationally, we it's unavoidable, and that's why the book title says information asymmetry and your success. Information asymmetry meaning there's some people who know some stuff and they're not sharing with you, and it's on purpose. And my book points that out, and it shows the studies that say, "Yep, that's what we were doing to you." Yep, and we were doing it for this reason and that reason. And yep, we are aware of the people that's taking advantage of you. So that will definitely help a lot of people's mental health, so that they can start to generate wealth. Because we can't generate wealth with lying and all this gaslighting. We don't know who to believe or who to trust. We can't even believe ourselves and trust ourselves.
It's true.
So allow me to ask you this. Well, let me start with one of the generic questions that people ask authors, and then I'll go just slightly deeper. Who was your main inspiration? Just in general, not necessarily for the book, but also for the book, but in general, who was your main inspiration?
People that couldn't afford my services. A lot of time I was volunteering my services. A lot of times I was helping people, and I don't say anything. That's why when Falonda and Karen were on my show, I couldn't say, and I didn't feel comfortable saying, because a lot of times the people that I'm passionate about helping, they can't afford my services. They can't afford to be in the damage that they're in. They're in a hole, and they can't afford to get out. They don't know how they even got in it. Those are the people I help. Those are the people who I've been writing for over 20 years. I've been low key doing a lot of things like that for people on the spectrum. DCFS in Chicago, no, because they were the ones paying me. But the people who for help desperately need find
Breaking up.
not being fleeced out to them. In my book, I provide upwards of $50,000 of information that people can apply right now. I don't fleece people for money in real life, my personal clients or anybody else, any company I've ever worked for. And I'm not going to fleece people for money now. We can't even afford it mentally.
So, with mental health and that being one of the focuses of the book, I love asking people who are big on mental health. What do you do to maintain your mental health? What are one of the things that you personally do to keep yourself from losing it?
Well, now you about to get me to say some vulgar stuff.
It's the Real Talk Podcast. I told you.
Well, first off, I go bound and gag Eddie so I can. I'm just kidding.
Look, Eddie said
I'm
I
just
would not be
kidding.
dealing with these shenanigans today.
Here
But
at the
my
Real
first
Talk
go-to-
Podcast, we don't kink shame.
Thank
You
you.
may not, but the look on Dr. Eddie's face said, I do.
Well, my first go-to is just that. I will joke around in the moment, because that moment you can't find any help anywhere else. You can't reach out to anything else. So the first thing you do, in my opinion, what I do, I'll make a joke. And as we're laughing and calming down, and that gets your blood pressure down, then I try to focus a little bit more on, am I praying? I ain't gonna lie, I'm always praying, because I know myself. You have to know yourself. I know myself. I come from the south side of Chicago, okay? These
Bang,
hands are
bang.
bruised up because she will lay the Holy Ghost on you. But I ain't trying to get locked up. I don't have a record or anything like that, praise God. But in order to combat those natural urges, I'll joke around first, and then I'll be more conscious of, am I praying? And then, how can I, be respectful in this situation, even if I'm wrong or didn't know I was wrong. And I try to take accountability and then go and examine myself and then return to the situation later. But my method of trying to combat stress, it all depends on what I'm doing in the moment. If I can't do anything else, I throw a joke out there, even if it's inappropriate. I laugh.
Okay. All right. You got another one?
So what is one of the principles? Because I want people to really look. We invest in so many other things. Investing into yourself is what this book really sounds like it's for. It's investing into yourself. What is one of the principles in the book that you think that is like broad spectrum for everyone? Like, what is something in this book that people should definitely look into?
Nurturing their formal logic.
I need you to break that down.
Oftentimes we are going against our first mind. Oftentimes we're going against that feeling on the inside. Well, no, maybe I shouldn't do this. But we've seen so many people avoid problems by, man, I'm so happy I listened to my first mind. For example, I was in Colorado when that mass shooting of the Batman theater got shot up. I was going to take my boys to the theater so that we can deal with the stress of Eddie being deployed for 3 years. And it's like, okay, this is some way we could be a little closer to Eddie. They daddy is the American hero. And at the last minute, I followed my first mind and we didn't go. And that turned out to be a blessing. I can't even count, how many times that's happened. And it's like when we try to rationalize going against our first mind, going against that feeling on the inside. You've heard a lot of 911 survivors, I would have went to work that day. Something stopped me. You hear it all the time, but we are conditioning ourselves in school institutions, sanctuaries of faith, businesses. We're going against that because we're conditioned to be, and we're rewarded. And that reward for going against it makes it habitual to the point where we run out of grace and we then endure the consequences.
So, Dr. Eddie, I'm gonna ask you a question about your wife, and then as we talk with you about your book, I'm gonna ask Dr. Tina the same question about you. Especially with the topic we have later on, I feel like this is something that's very appropriate to kind of shine light on the opposite because it is very evident to anybody who pays any real attention. Y'all really love each other. So, Dr. Eddie, what are you most proud of as it relates to your wife?
Oh, there's a lot, but no. I look. I love my wife. Um, we are. We have known each other basically our whole lives, but almost. And I think um, I, I you have to have someone who can. Let me be very clear. I tell my wife all the time. Um, she people don't realize if my wife was not who she was, if my wife was not the intelligent, beautiful, loving person that she is, um, it would not work for me. I to she kind of glossed over really quickly. I love that we have we have worked through a lot of different things that I don't think a lot of people could have been able to work through. When you are deployed for 3 years and you get a month out of the year to come home to see your family, that's like a lockup. Our brother remember telling me that, and I was like, that's actually how it feels. Additionally, to raise four boys to have the academic bibliophilic acumen to uh, write a book. And let me tell y'all something. That book wasn't easy. She worked really hard on that book, trying to figure it out, getting on my nerve, um, constantly wanting us to make sure that it was right and this was the setup. And in the end of the day, um, trying to put out something to the world that is going to benefit. So I really love that um, she God made gave me something that it works for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I tell Tina all the time, she can annoy me. She's been annoying me since we were little kids. But at the same time, that annoyance I think is God's joke. That's his laughter of it all. But it it does work. And I, even with my sons, my son, my oldest son told me recently, he was like, but you all do things in a similar way. It's different, but it's similar. And so it works out. So I love that we can jive together that will.
Right. Don't smite you, just torture you for the rest of your life.
Let's go up the head.
And stuff like that. Like I don't when she says crazy things, I just shake my head. Shake.
But that's love. That's love, though. That's love. That's how that works.
I don't even know what I'm doing it. I'm just saying. I'm just goofy. I
Yes, you
mean,
do. No, no, I'm not gonna let you say. I'm not gonna let you get away with it. Yes, you do.
So,
You know it. You know it.
what was she saying?
it sounds like
Ain't
he
no.
knew he should be punished. And he was like, well, God, instead of punishing me, what you do is you
No,
torture me for the rest of my
I
life.
asked God for what I wanted, down to the little thing. But see, God always throws in a little extra just to keep you right. So, it's always something else that he puts up in there, and he put a lot up in there. So yeah.
I'm a lot. That's what I get.
But he always knows what you need versus what you ask for, what you may want. He knows
I
what you need.
completely agree, Falonda. And he knew what I needed, but man, he gave a lot of what I needed more than I expected. So no, that's fine.
Wow. It's a good thing I don't offend easy. Just saying.
I'm not studying my
He
wife.
could be with a thin skinned woman.
It ain't his
No,
fault. He
not
telling the
at
truth.
all. Oh, wow.
It ain't his fault. Listen. What am I gonna do? Disagree with the man who lived with you? I can't disagree with him. He tell the truth.
Clearly, I can't either. Not the way I like to travel. I'm just saying.
And we also have Dr. Eddie Phillips here with us, who is the author of 101 Black History Question Challenge, Early Childhood. Now, I think I know.
Early world.
I'm sorry, Early World. No. Yeah, I read it right. 101 Black History Challenge, Question Challenge, Early World. That's what I
No, you
said.
said early childhood.
Yes.
I see what you mean, Dr. Eddie. I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
You
Yeah.
don't say it
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I gives you
Lord
just
have
that little
mercy.
bit of extra.
Even if I said it wrong, she could have let it go. I'm getting ready to put the picture of it right up on the screen. She knew.
No.
Lord have mercy. Anyhow, now this is one of the questions I that because I have talked with you on a number of different occasions.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I know the answers, and you post a lot more than your wife does, so I get to see some of the insights that you post on your wall and in the irradiation. That I almost forgot. They are.
Erudition.
I had to stop myself so I could because I was getting ready to say I forgot to announce talk about about the network that. Dr. Eddie, I'm telling you.
I'm about to be fired again.
Yes, you are. You're like that close. You was good all the way up until I started to talk to the
Okay.
man. That's the problem. That's the problem with it is. You don't like me talking to the man. That's what it is. Okay, I see. Anyway, they are the owners and proprietors of the Erudition Network as well. And so I get to see a lot of his insights as he posts through his wall and some of his insights as he speaks, even though he don't think or he may not think that I check the podcast out every so often. I do. I don't get the chance to check it out live like I would like to. But so I kind of have an understanding of the answer to this question, but I still want for those who don't know you to answer this question. Why is this book so important?
Well, so we have a big issue going on right now, um, and I think that we have to get more erudite which is why we chose the name Erudition. We have to get more knowledgeable, and we have to start in our own history. There is so much more to Black history than slavery, enslavement. And I think that I know in America, we have lost sight on that. Um, I like to reflect on the idea that when you go and most of us who've been through school, kindergarten to 12th grade, and even in the college, it's really upsetting that the first time you see someone that looks like you, they are in chains, and you see pictures of in chains. They look like animals. They are reduced in their humanity, and it's one of the issues that I had with the whole 1619 thing. Don't limit my history to the enslavement by Europeans. Don't limit my history. And you know that a majority of where you are in the world, throughout the world, comes a lot from the African diaspora, and you don't acknowledge that. Because when you don't acknowledge that, then you don't acknowledge the whole of human history. When you don't acknowledge where we come from out of Africa, how mankind came to be what it is, then you actually degrade all of us. So we have to get better at that. And so that's one of the reasons why I felt that the book was important because, well, as a series of books, I'm already working on a second 102 questions, Middle Ages, but
I saw that. I'm excited for you on that one too.
Because we got to get better. And I wanted to ask, I didn't want to go overboard. I could have did 500 questions, but it would have been a very huge book. But what I did was I wanted to just keep it basic and ask 101 questions and then give you very detailed. It's not just a quiz book, right? I wanted you to learn from this book, and I made it interactive. So this book is an ebook. It's an ebook on purpose so that you can put it on your phone. You can put it on your tablet. You can take this with you anywhere, and you can stream it, because we can do that through our phones and our tablets, onto your smart televisions. And you can have a game night with your family. You can ask questions and learn together at the same time. That was the purpose. And that took coding and keying to get that book to do that. And it took time, but that was the purpose, right? And I know a lot of people like that hardcover book, but my focus was that we needed to have something that was transportable, right? That we can take around and we can utilize in a way where everybody can learn in real time.
So it's interesting that you said you could have put 500, because my next question actually kind of went to that. My next question was really going to be, so you have 101 questions. If you had to move it to 102, what is the next question that was just about to make the cut? You said, you know what, you're not going to make it. What's that one question, that honorable mention question, I guess you would say, that could have been in this book that isn't?
Well, there was a lot of questions. I think that what I tried to focus on with this was, and I broke it down in certain chapters, but what I really wanted to focus on was particular eras. There's no way that I can touch on the whole of history. The other issue with this was, because I do the interactive and a lot of people don't ask questions, I wanted to give them questions that you could ask and we can delve further into, right? Give you at least a starting point to go. But I think in several sections, I think it would have probably been another section. It wouldn't have just been one question. I would have loved to talk about fractal knowledge of Africa. I would have loved to talk about how the idea of deterministic chaos, the math, we don't talk about African math. I would have liked to talk about the butterfly effect, chaos theory, strange attractors. I would have liked to talk about how these things really work, not how Europeans or urban mathematicians are telling you that they work. When we go back and we look at the Barca people in the sand, we have told ourselves that divination means witchcraft. And in reality, the African did not see it that way. They saw it as a way to worship God. And so I wanted us to talk about that. There would have been a section where we'd have talked about Hugo Sanitaria and how they took math from the Islamic Africans and stole it from them and took it to Spain. How they took it and called it alchemy, right? And they hid it from the Roman Church, right? Where we got all these people talking about different sects and things and names, the Illuminati and everything else. But there's a reason why they took alchemy and they hid it and they named themselves these groups in the Roman Church because they didn't understand that math. They got a little bit of piece of it, right? And so they took it and then they called it geomancy, right? And they put it out through Europe, and kings and people were using bones and whatever they were doing, trying to imitate what they had learned secondhand or sometimes third hand from the African. How the German mathematician Leibniz went and took that same system, added ones and zeros to it, and called it binary. And how we went from binary to George Boole taking Boolean algebra and then creating what we know as the computer through John Van Neumann, right? So we're actually working and talking through something that came from African people drawing in the sand. And yet we don't understand that that's an issue. We don't understand that there's multiple cultural, educational, philosophical, spiritual things that were taken out of Africa. African educators, they had to proof Greek philosophers. So all these people who you look back on in history and you say, oh, that was a great philosopher, they had to go and spend time in Africa and prove themselves worthy of knowledge to be shared. But this is not taught to us, even though we have all kinds of historical evidence. We have their own writings that tell us this. You go in, we were talking earlier about translating and understanding. So I think that as I start these books and as I go through the different periods, I can only touch on so much. I can only talk about the Medians, Carthaginians, the Exumites, and different things like that. But I wanted to at least touch on a little to get you to start asking about more.
I love that. Like I think, especially since we're in this era where they are taking teachings out of schools, and we have long since lost the art of teaching it in our homes. Like for a group of, when we were talking about the Gen Z generation earlier, for a group of people who are thirsting for knowledge and truth, they don't know where. Like it's so much misinformation or just slightly off information out there. It is important that we get out, that we have sources. Yes. That we can go to. And by this book being interactive, I love that. Because unfortunately, people aren't picking up the hardback books like they used to. And this leads to something that I think that we're losing, which is the art of conversation.
Mm-hmm. Philonda, so there are 430 sources in my book. Awesome. 430 sources. For every question, there is at least 5 to 6 sources for every question. I made sure that we sourced this information because what I did not want is people to come and say, well, that's great, because I see so many of these books being written and they don't tell you where they got that information from, right? And so, there's a question in the book that I asked about, I see now people are running around talking about Neanderthal, right? Oh, I got Neanderthal DNA in me. Well, that's not necessarily a positive thing. Neanderthals, the people who inbred with the Neanderthals and the Denovesians, right? These two humanoid things. And there's the thing that's supported by biblical reference, right? That there were creatures that were here, but people who transitioned out of Africa laid down with these. But if y'all remember when we was coming through school, they told us that Homo sapiens came from Neanderthals. that we came from Neanderthals, right? They told us that the Australopithecus, they told us that all of these Ardipithecus, they told us that all of these things were us. And that came in the idea of people challenging Darwinism, but Darwin never said that. This was them adding things to it, to add hominids, to take people out of Africa and move them away. Well, in the book, I'm showing you that the actual Homo sapien was found alongside the Neanderthal. How can you you come from something that is already in existence with you? It's as if you would go and dig up a monkey, right? 1,000 years from now, you go dig up an area where around a zoo and find apes and say, well, I found apes and I saw human bones. They look similar, so they must be the same thing. It doesn't make any sense, right? So we have to delve into that history and understand that in Ethiopia, that in Kenya, that in places in Africa where they're still digging up these bones, that they found people, not monkeys, not apes, not any of these hominids. And so when we talk that, though, we got to give source. We got to give source because a lot of people don't give the source. I went out of my way, right? Some would say overdid it to put all of those sources in there, right? To show you, hey, I didn't just pull this out of Eddie's mind. This is validated.
So my question with that, because I love asking people who do research to do anything. I love asking this question because I find it a lost art and people don't really understand what it takes to really do the kind of in-depth research you did. What is the difference between doing the research and researching the researchers?
So here's the difference. When you have to, I heard a friend of mine say, you have to read. There is no shortcut to knowledge, right? You got to study. And you have to trace the path, right, to what it is. Let me give you an example. So the historian Josephus, right? People ask all the time, well, how do we know Jesus existed? Right? How do we know that? And we can go look through historians who had no reason to even talk about Jesus, right? But they wrote about people who were related to Jesus. They wrote about what things that happened in the law. They wrote about that time, right? So we can trace and say, well, if Josephus was right and he said it was a man named Christus, because that's what he heard, who had a brother named James, and then it goes further, right? Then we start looking at, okay, well, there was an actual Pontius Pilate, right? So we know he was a real person. We know that he had issues. And you have to start to trace history. I remember when we were doing COVID and people were always telling me, no, I do my research. No, research is not typing in Google, right? And saying, what is this? And then taking whatever Google said to you. Research is going, hey, what is this? Now let me go look at several different sources as close to the actual event as I possibly can get, right? And then I'm going to bounce that information off of some other information. And I'm going to see if this makes any sense. Now I start to find out who's just talking out of their butt and who's actually, or who didn't know anything. And I date it, right? And I go and say, okay, this actually makes sense. And I can follow it. Now, research used to be a actual science. I have a book over here somewhere written in the 1920s, right, on how to do academic research, right? It was required study in college, but a lot of people don't really do research anymore. And I would even say so much to a point where you are starting to see a decline in it. I took a part of my book, I took a little part that I know I wrote, and I ran it through because I was looking at some academic stuff and people were writing with AI. And I ran it through like different AI checkers. The first AI checker said, oh, you definitely must have took this from AI. 2 or 3 other ones was like, no, this is yours. And then I started to think back when I was in class, I had a professor. My wife got with them were tripping because I cussed the professor out because he told me in a writing I wrote a paper and he said, Eddie, you just can't go and plagiarize people. And I said, what are you talking about? I cited everything that I did. And I kind of went in. What he was saying, because he actually wrote it on, your word is too your writing is too technical. So basically what he was telling me was that I'm supposed to write a certain way. And because I don't write that way, then I must not be writing it, right? Now, there is some racial connotation in there. There's a whole lot of things up in there, right? But the fact of the matter is, when challenged, he was like, oh, I was wrong. You're absolutely right. Because you didn't run it through a plagiarism checker. You just assumed there's no way that this ninja could write like this, right? And actually explain this in a way that I didn't understand it that way. But the class I was taking, I'd done that job for over 20 years. So all I'm doing, brother, is trying to get the degree, right, to validate what I already know.
Right.
So you run into that.
So, Dr. Tina, you got to take yourself off mute for this. I don't know why you keep putting yourself on mute, but that's all right. This question goes to the same question I asked Dr. Eddie. What are you most proud of concerning your husband?
Well, I don't want to have that, feedback thing going wrong.
It won't, because y'all got your headphones in and we got ours in, so we good so far.
Okay. You said, what did I love the most about
What
his
are you
book?
most proud? See, ain't that what I did? I just say they don't listen, Dr. Eddie. I said that
Because I
before
do
we
love the
start
fact
talking.
that.
So,
Because I
what are
do
you
love
most proud of?
Well, I know, but I do love the fact, because I don't know about pride. I do love the fact that he gave so much for free in this book, and then he priced it at $18, like it was like that easy for him to like actually get that thing up and running and to get that out there. I don't know how he was able to price it so low. And he found a way to do that. I couldn't even find a way, but I love the fact that, and I'm happy for him that even though he did the things that he had to do with the military and he sacrificed the way he did, he still continues to push himself way too hard. And I'm always telling him, you need to go sleep, we need a vacation, we need a break, and you need to stop. And I don't let him burn himself completely out, because God will definitely answer a prayer and sit him down. But I love the fact that he do go hard for ability to
Oh,
his elite services. And I think that
Say some of that again, because you was breaking up.
I love the fact that he continues to give more of himself than what people can afford to pay. Because oftentimes you only get the things that you see from us when you can afford it, but he doesn't hold back. And I like that, because I do that. And when you see something that you like about yourself in the person that you want to be with, that's the kind of thing that's like, oh, okay, I see what I do. I see what I deal with you. I see. But I really love that, that's, something that he does. He keeps, giving more than he should. And a lot of times the only thing people can do is say thank you. And he's cool with that. You know how some people, they'll go out their way and they'll do all this good stuff and free stuff. And when the person can't afford it, and they really can't afford it, they get mad at the person and they'll withhold things, or they'll talk bad about them or something, to lash out, even though they went into it knowing they couldn't afford it, and you doing them a kindness. He doesn't go back later with regrets.
So, I love the fact y'all love each other like that. I really do. I love that y'all support each other. I watch y'all support each other. Y'all work together with the Erudition Network. I love how y'all interact. It is wonderful. If me and my wife interacted like that, we probably would stab each other, but y'all make it work and y'all love each other while y'all do it. But I truly do love it. And for everybody who's listening, I intend on doing two things. One, when this not only is this podcast live, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this first segment off, and then I'm going to repost it by itself as well, because I believe the information that they're giving is wonderful, as well as y'all need to pick up these books. Like, they didn't just write them just for the sake of writing them. I mean, they write them because they love the subjects that they're talking about, but they want people to be able to get them, procure them, and get the knowledge that they are giving to you. It makes no sense. Let me say this, because I'm y'all got to forgive me. I'm slightly in my preacher mode for half a second. It makes no sense how we, as a people, love to say that we don't support each other, and then when the time comes to be able to support someone, you choose not to. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't. Some people can't afford it, but you know what you can do? You can share this podcast, and you can share this segment to make sure that other people know. You can find them on Facebook and share their posts about their book. You can tell others about their book. You can find ways to support, but we choose not to. And so I want to make sure that this first segment by itself is out there, so that people can get the opportunity to just hear from you all, because I know, first of all, I know us. We're going to talk. All four of us, we're going to talk. We already an hour in. We're going to talk. I just know us. And so I want people to be able to take this segment and not be tired while hearing it. I want them to be able to just take it. So I'm gonna chop this off, and I'm gonna post it by itself. And Dr. Ed, if you want me to drop box it to you, I'll make sure you can have the link too, so you can do what you want with it as well.
Okay.
The second thing I'm going to do is Real Talk Podcast is expanding. We're doing what I'm calling Real Talk interviews. And so I want to have both of you on individually on the Real Talk interview segment,
Okay.
where I just talk with you, if my wife wants to be on as well, because primarily a me thing for this one, but if my wife wants to be on as well, she could be on as well. We're just going to talk with you and interview you, not just about the book, but about you and some of the things that make you as great as you are, because you are two quality people I believe people need to know. They need to know about what y'all do. They need to know about you all. They need to know y'all. And so, y'all, I'm encouraging you all to pick up these two books, the 101 Black History Question Challenge, Early World, and pick up Generational Wealth, Information, Asymmetry, and Your Success. One of the places that you can pick them up on, let me do it that way I can do it, I can see where I'm at, is lulu.com. Lulu.com is a place you can pick these books up at. They're very reasonably priced for the information and for the education that these two individuals have to have put into this book.
Way cheaper than college tuition.
You absolutely cheaper. And they both are doctors, and so you know good and well that what the cost of what it took them to get the information is way under what they are charging you. Dr. Tina's book is $40. And let me tell you something. For what she's able to give you, you need to be able to get this book and look at that 40 and say, what if you live in the Atlanta area, you toss away $40 on a meal for yourself.
Oh, that's a meal. That's one person.
And I ain't talking about Uber Eats and Grubhub, and I'm talking about just going to a place, a fast food joint, and come. You out $40 just that. They are also kingdom-minded people. So what you do for them and how you support them also supports kingdom in a way that most of us don't think about, because when you support kingdom-minded people, you're supporting kingdom because you're supporting their ability to continue to do kingdom work. So pick up Generational Wealth, Information, Asymmetry, and Your Success. It's $40. And as Dr. Tina so eloquently put, that 101 Black History Question Challenge Early World is only $18. Now look, you can't spend $18 on a book. Something wrong with you. And black folk, reading is fundamental. So could we get back to learning how to read and not just skim through Instagram? We're so used to doing this now, we don't even read. People be posting stuff and
That's
on
the
Facebook.
great thing about
and
these books. They're ebooks. So you can still do this if this is what you're used to.
True, but my point is, typically when we're doing this, we're just looking at pictures.
Yeah.
Whether it be Facebook or Instagram, whatever, we're not really paying attention to the words. We're looking at pictures, or we're scrolling and listening to reels. Let's get back to reading, because Chris Rock's joke is becoming way more true in this age than ever before. You want to hide information from niggas? Put it in a book. They have put the information in the book, but they're not trying to hide it from you. They're trying to make sure it's accessible to you. So please, man, please, sir, that's my spiel for today. Go on ahead and pick up this book. Please pick up both books and support these folks, as well as support the Erudition Network. It is on Facebook. It is on YouTube. Are y'all on Instagram too? I want to catch all the places y'all is on.
I don't know if we're on Instagram. I know we're on. I know we're on TikTok. I think we may be on Instagram. I have to look. If we have, we haven't been on there in quite a while. But we definitely are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. There's some things on TikTok from Tina and me. So yeah, we're all over there.
Only because it's difficult to like balance, when you're doing so many things and you still got to pay the bills. So we still have regular things that we doing, but this is vital to the community because the world just needs this right now.
And since I see my good friend, one of the co-hosts of the Real Talk podcast, when he's on with the Pastor's Crew, I see my good friend Apostle J.C. Wallace on. Hey, Apostle J.C., I'm going to tell you like this, because I know you and I know how you think. This book, Generational Wealth, Information, and the Symmetry in Your Success, this is one you would love to pick up. It's got some things that I know you talk about and teach in terms of generational wealth, in terms of mental health, in terms of being able to help the community. These are things that this book it espouses in great manner. This is a book, because I know you. I feel like I know you well enough to be able to say, bruh, that's one you should pick up. So please, man, please, sir, do so. Please support them on the Erudition Network. Please make sure you reach out to them and everything. I hate you, JC. And this is why I can't take see, Dr. I can't take folks seriously sometimes. I'm trying to do serious moments, and here he is being JC.
Well, right in the description, I put on there that there's some people who were diagnosed with learning inabilities who I've helped. So I'm certain that Jesse is right in recommending, regardless of your ability to read as well as you may like to, Jesse is definitely on point with that one. If you're helping the community, you might want to pick this book up.
So yeah, please reach out to them. Please make sure y'all like them on Facebook, like them on YouTube, subscribe to them on YouTube.
Follow them on Instagram. I found it. I didn't know I wasn't following y'all. That's my bag.
well, shout out their Instagram, because they don't even know their Instagram stuff.
It's the Erudition Network on Instagram.
Hey, if you got Alexa, because I know people use Alexa. See, she's chiming in. You can go to Alexa and ask Alexa to do the Erudition Network quiz. And there is a quiz thing on Alexa that will ask you certain Black History questions. I had done that about 2 years ago, and we start to get feedback, because that's how long it takes things to take off sometimes. Feedback from people saying how much they enjoyed the questions on that quiz. So, yeah, you can do that too.
Oh, our granddaughter recently discovered how much she loves Alexa, so she uses Alexa for everything. So if our granddaughter, who is 5, can do it, then everybody else can do it too.
And so, yeah, we want make sure not only that y'all follow them, but support their individual podcasts. I'm gonna talk more about that at the end of the podcast. I don't want y'all to feel like this end of the podcast, because it ain't. But I want to make sure I'm supporting them and get their information out front, because some of y'all like to jump off around this time around. So make sure y'all support their podcast, all of their podcasts. Dr. Tina has her podcast on Monday. Dr. Eddie has his on Wednesday. I believe their young sons, and this is a family affair, theirs is on Saturday. So
Wednesday.
What?
Wednesday.
I thought they were on Saturday. Okay, I'm sorry. Wednesday and
yeah,
Thursday. Okay, I'm sorry.
We've been switching up times, Jesse. So it's not really we've me and Tina's podcast are starting to be a little bit later at about 7:00 our time, which is about 8:00 Central Standard Time. But the boys are on at 5:00, 6:00 Central Standard Time on Wednesdays. So but yeah, we're on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You'll find us. Even if you can't find the live, you can always watch the replay of it. So
especially if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hence why y'all should subscribe to the YouTube channel. I promise you, it is well worth it. Y'all know I don't go this hard for just anybody. I'm going this hard for them because I believe in them and I believe in what they do. So, with that in mind, we're going to take a real quick break. We're going to come back with our first and only segment for the Real Talk podcast after having had a wonderful talk with the authors and the doctors, Dr. Phillips and Dr. Phillips. We're going to come back from the Real Talk podcast. And let me say this ahead of time. I'll say on the other end of the break as well. I'm giving y'all a warning now. This is a trigger warning. There are going to be some things talked about in this next topic that may trigger some of y'all. We're supposed to give those kinds of warnings. So here's your warning. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. We go hit some things, and we go talk about some real serious stuff. We'll be right back for the Real Talk podcast.
This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk. This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk. Real Talk.